Black Panther is a Marvel film and it will likely break a shit ton of records because Marvel films always do, and this new Black Panther film has been hyped up like crazy. I think it looks great. I liked Black Panther a lot in the Civil War film. He was my favourite aspect of it, so I was really super hyped for a Black Panther solo film. Kind of crazy that we've gotten to a point now where we're having so many obscure characters like get their own films, but Marvel have just gotten to a point where they're super massive and they can pretty much do anything and they will bring in millions and millions and millions of dollars through the box office, through merch, just through everything. Marvel is huge. And with the huge popularity comes a bit of experimentation, and it turns out that with this Black Panther film they have gotten TDE to curate the entire soundtrack for the film, and also Kendrick Lamar is basically like the head of all the tracks. He's brought on a lot of other people in a sort of DJ Khaled-esque way, I guess. He's been on these tracks doing a lot of rapping, also getting a lot of TDE members and many other great artists out there involved in this soundtrack too. I've yet to see the film yet, but I feel like this soundtrack will be absolutely fine to talk about in its own context because of the way it's been put together and how scattershot it is with all the different tracks and different artists on it. So I thought I want to talk about it. It's pretty big and it piqued my interest quite greatly once I'd listened to it. And for a soundtrack album, honestly, it's probably one of the better ones out there that you'll get over the past few years. I do like soundtracks on their own sometimes, but usually they're better with the film. Like, I've always thought this. I know Hans Zimmer is really good at making soundtracks. He can pretty much put together an album that can work on its own, even without it being on a film. But still, it's not really a time... There's not really a time in my life where I'm like, I want to listen to a soundtrack film. But this Black Panther one's probably the closest I'll get because of how good it is. Sure, there are a lot of features on here that don't really work too well. Of course, we've all took the piss and made many jokes about Future's verse. La-di-da-di-da, sla-ba-bi-da. Honestly iconic at this point, if you ask me. It's terrible, but it's one of those things that's terrible that you love it anyway, but Future sounds horrendous on this song. It's so funny. We get SZA on All the Stars, which got a lot of criticism when it came out, but honestly I think this track has grown on me quite a bit. I think SZA's vocal part is really good. Just the issue is that it sounds way too much like a soundtrack song. Like, it literally sounds like it was made for a film, and SZA is singing in a way that she never usually sings, so it's not really in an authentic way. It's kind of like she knows that she has to do this kind of performance for a film. I would have liked to have seen a Kendrick and SZA song just as them doing their own thing rather than it being made for this kind of film. But it's weird though, because it's the only time on this album where you feel like you're listening to a soundtrack song. And it's a shame because SZA's got so much more potential than this. Khalid doesn't really bring much to the track he's on. Sway Lee is there too. Why are them two on the same song? Like, I don't know. It's not a track that stands out in any significant way, to be honest. Zachary, my favourite guy, Zachary, has a track. I think he has two tracks, actually. I've spoke my opinion on this guy before because of how much I hate the song Love by Kendrick Lamar. And he is the vocal feature on that song. To be fair, he doesn't sound that bad here on this album, but it's not like I'm going to be going back to this. It doesn't stop you in your tracks. You're not like, whoa, Zachary? Zachary? Oh my god. I expected a bit more from the opening track Black Panther too, considering it's the opening track. It's got Kendrick Lamar solely on the song. I thought it'd be a bit better than it was, really. But it's just alright. I don't know. It's the thing with this album is that Kendrick actually isn't really the standout part on many of the songs. I think he does a great job on King's Dead, but the rest of the album's really the other features that are the highlights for me. Absol on Bloody Waters, are you kidding? Fucking hell, this song's amazing. Absol is just rapping so well. The way he's rapping on this track, man, he sounds so good. Like I want more Absol. Like I didn't really love his last album. I thought it was alright. It was way too long. Some of the lyrical themes weren't very good either. I do think that album was a bit overrated, but the way he's rapping on this track, I want this. I want this on an album. Like I want an album where Absol is just like this. He just sounds so good here. Anderson .Paak as well on this track. This might be my favourite on the album. I don't know if it'll be many other people's favourites, but this to me was like a highlight. Opps with Vince Staples is a banger, a bit like what you'd get from Big Fish Theory. I'm sure a lot of people will prefer what was on that album to this though, but it still has got a really good beat. Vince sounds great on the track, Kendrick sounds great on the track, and Yugen Blackrock, she sounds really good on this track. I like her rapping on the her flow is really good. I think she fits the track really well, considering that she's not a very big name, but still, that's one thing about this album. You know, it's got a few features here that you might not know, but they do fit into the context very well. Seasons is a good example of that. It's got quite a nice African-inspired beat on it. It's quite a subtle track though, but the features do a good job with their singing. I do like the way this sounds. It feels very much like the kind of track you'd expect for a Black Panther film, you know, because like this is quite a big moment for you know, black people in America to have like their own sort of like superhero. Like this is one thing that isn't really a common thing, to have like a black superhero as like a forefront of a film. It's pretty impressive. I can see this being quite a well-remembered time, the well-remembered sort of historical film moment in years to come. And I feel like Seasons is the kind of track that was needed and was necessary for this soundtrack. Georgia Smith doesn't really impress me all that much on I Am. I find her a little bit dull. Honestly, the beat isn't anything special either. There are too many moments I saw where it kind of dulls out a little bit. Like there are just tracks that I'm not really that bothered about them, whether it be the beat or the vocalist on it. It just sometimes that's the case, and that's one of those tracks. It's not really a particularly exciting moment. X is a fucking trap banger. We got 2 Chainz and Schoolboy Q on here. They both are great. Kendrick is just like spitting so well. This is like a highlight for me as well because I just think it sounds so much different to the rest of the tracks. We don't really get this kind of like straight up hip hop trap influence track on this album. Considering it is mostly hip hop, this is the one track that has that feel to it, and I really like it. I really did expect more of this on the album, honestly, considering Kendrick took control of most of it and TDE took control. But as it is on its own, it's a great song. I like the track Big Shot with Travis Scott too. Travis Scott does some pretty decent vocals at the end of the song. Kendrick mostly takes up the first half of the track. It's pretty good. It's an alright song. It's not really a highlight for Kendrick or Travis Scott, but to come together and sound like this, I ain't complaining. It's alright. It's not bad. But the closing track, Pray For Me, at first I completely dismissed this song. I was just like, nah, it just sounds like any old soundtrack song, nothing really special. But the way The Weeknd is singing on here, he sounds amazing. Like, I didn't realise until I gave this track so many more listens. I was like, oh shit, The Weeknd, man, he is so good here. And the beat is so good. It's such a great closer to the album, honestly. Really, The Weeknd just shines here. I've not heard The Weeknd sound this good for a while. I mean, he did a lot of this kind of singing on Starboy, but I think this might be like his better vocal performance that we've had from him in quite a while. So yeah, overall it's pretty solid. It's pretty solid. I need to turn a light on though because it's pretty dark now. We have a light and we have a good album. This is a pretty good album for a soundtrack. I have no real major issues, just a few tracks really easily skippables. But considering it's like a soundtrack album, you'd expect that anyway, because you're not going to play an album all the way through when it's from a film, when you could just quite easily watch the film and get way more of an entertainment value from it. But yeah, so many great tracks on here that I'll be coming back to. A solid album, and Kendrick Lamar and TD did such a good job. So yeah, I'm going to be minus for this one. Let me know your thoughts on this album if you've heard it, and your thoughts on the film too if you have seen it. And yeah, that is all. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews, for more discussion videos, interviews, plenty of other things I do too. And have a good day. Have a good day. La-di-da-di-da.